gentlemen, he is the man behind the traps, one of the most diverse actors, and really created an icon of the modern horror era. Ladies and gentlemen, Jigsaw himself, John Kramer, Tobin Bell. Take a seat.
I'm going to live a little longer.
Gentlemen, get comfortable. We have a packed house here today for you guys, for the franchise. I think in all fairness, the first aspect is, in the time that you've been here, Costas, you were here yesterday, Tobin, you're here today, how has HorrorHound been for you? Grab the mic. We're all good.
Hi. It's been wonderful. It's been warm. It's been busy, and the spirit of the people is why we're here. You know, it's been great. And Tobin got here early, and
yeah, fabulous. Look at all those beautiful horror faces. I adore you people. Every show like this that I come to, I'm always warmly impressed with the dedication of the fans, so thank you for that. It means a lot to us, I know.
So gentlemen, 2004 was an incredible year, a lot of great films, a really transitional part of history, and along comes the first film, Lee Winnell, James Wan, when it comes to Saw. And Saw took on something that we had not seen since really A Nightmare on Elm Street, and that was someone who had character. Whether the perception was a monster or not, he had character, he had a purpose, and he was smart. Tobin, can you first of all talk about why Jigsaw, John Kramer, connected so well, and why you stayed for the entire ride of all 7 films for Saw?
A lot of the concepts that we ended up developing, one of the things about Saw that I liked a lot was that not only was it a horror film, but the filmmakers were committed to developing some interesting philosophy related to what was going on, and I attribute a lot of that to some of the concepts that were born in Saw 1 by James Wan and Lee Winnell, like something simple like that we all have to do every single day, which is to appreciate our lives and be grateful for the simple things that we have. So to find a place in a scary film for simple philosophy like that, and it can be done, it just has to be, that commitment has to be made by the writers, and if it's in the writing, then it can be accomplished. You can do as much in a horror film as you can do in any other genre if you're committed to the writing. And so we had fun doing that in Saw, in the places that we could do it, and it meant a lot to me to be able to do that, because it layers the film. The film has more than 1 or 2 layers. It can have 3 layers, it can have 4 layers. It can have love, it can have friendship, it can have all kinds of surprising things in it. If you can surprise the fans, that's great, you know. And when I say surprise, I don't mean just somebody showing up outside of a screen door in the dark at night. I don't mean that kind of surprise, but just a surprise that where a viewer is sitting watching the film and they go, oh my God, I relate to it. I understand what they're talking about here. You can slip it in, and it resonates.
Costas, what about you with connecting? Because you take on a more different and dark angle in the second half of the franchise, but yet your character, to a certain extent, still has a lot of connecting factors that people can understand, whether it's vengeance, whether it's the aspect of losing someone. There's a lot of dynamics to it.
You know, when I first came aboard, it was Costas, just don't screw up, because this ship is sailing beautifully. You know, the element of the movie was what it was, and of course Tobin was an important part of that because he cares about the intricacies. You know, and when I jumped aboard, apart from not wanting to, you know, screw anything up, there was one beautiful night where I was going to bed and I had to work with Tobin in that big long scene where he confronts me. Remember that? When he was trying to teach me my wrongs. It was 11 o'clock at night and Tobin, my phone rings and it's, "Hey Costas, it's Tobin Bell." And in my mind I'm like, oh fuck, Jigsaw is calling me at night. This isn't sad. And he said, "Please come and see me because I want to talk to you about a couple of things." And that's when I said, this man sort of takes it to the next level where, you know, he cared enough about it to make it more than it was. And I sort of followed suit through the whole, you know, all the episodes with him as a character and as a young actor who's, you know, sort of learning the way of Saw and of course caring about material so it's presented properly. That's the best answer I can give.
That's a great answer, and it's very understanding from the different perspectives of being a younger actor, as you said, but also someone who is really taking on the lineage of the story writing, of that narrative. Tobin, you would bring up the aspect of the writers and, you know, what they're willing to put into it. With Lee Winnell, then later on Marcus Dunstan and Patrick Melton, you know, it's two different sides of the coin for the way they told the story from episodes 1 through 3 to 4 to 7. Having different writers take it over, was that something, how did you embrace that? What was your reaction to that? Because it changed the story dynamic.
Yeah. The evolution of the series, to the credit of the producers, they always would wait until one was released before they decided what they wanted to do in the next one. And I often was not involved until the project, the writing was well along. I often wouldn't see the script until we were close to being ready to shoot. You know, sometimes I wish I was involved sooner. Sometimes, you know, there was always surprising things in the Saw films. So I was happy to let things evolve the way the guys who had the concepts initially wanted to develop it. And I would try to contribute in every way that I could to be true to some of the concepts that Lee and James initially developed, which were simple things, but like the treatment of the terminally ill by the medical community, simple concepts like that, which would kind of, when they did get introduced into the films, would get introduced sometimes for just a brief moment, but it was enough to convey to the viewers, in my view, this film is about something. You know, it's not just twists and turns and scares and surprises and traps. That John Kramer has something in mind, and that's been conveyed to Amanda and to Detective Hoffman, and there's a cohesive something going on here, which frankly I think is still being developed.
Would that be what you look at with Saw Legacy? Because I believe it just finished up in Toronto from what I read. it's a continuation on, so it would make sense with the development of it. Would that be a continuation?
Yes.
Fair enough. Fair enough. That's all. That's what I figured would have been. You know, Costas, what about you with Kevin Gruder? Because he started off as the editor in the first 3 or 4 parts of it, and then he basically came on to direct the main films that you were a part of as Hoffman. He's played a huge role in the presentation, the way that the story has gone. Can you talk a little bit about working with Kevin and how that direction has been?
Kevin was a wonderful guy. He's a very good director because, well, he came from the editing world, and you know, he's into the intricacies of everything. He sort of knows every nook and cranny. He was involved from the beginning, I think.
Yeah.
And he sort of knew his way around, you know, this world that we created. So he was great.
Do we have any questions from the crowd? All right, let's get some questions in. Come on back here. Come on, come over here. What is your name and what's your question?
My name is Erin, and first I wanted to say that I met Shawnee back in Indianapolis, and so she's really sweet. But I had a question on how did you get the part as Jigsaw in the Saw movies? Like, how did it come up? As like, did they just pick you out, or you had to go through a process, or it's really hard to talk?
Her mouth's a little tied up.
I got the gist of what you're saying. I played a guy on a television series. Nobody's really asked me that question before. And the series was called Once and Again. I don't remember who the star was. It was on for maybe 4 years. But I did an episode of Once and Again where I played, 2 episodes actually, where I played Patrick Dempsey's father. But you never saw me. You saw the shadow of me, you saw me with you saw a hat and an overcoat. And Patrick Dempsey was struggling in Once and Again with a kind of, he was disabled and he was psychotic. And so he would be perfectly fine, and then he would kind of flip. And he was visiting, the lead in the series was his sister, and he came to the house, and he was having dinner with them, and he was fine, and then he would go off on a tangent, and these voices would start to come into his head. And these voices would, he'd kind of break, and his voices inside his head would say to him, "You're nothing, you've never been anything, and you're never going to be anything. You're a piece of crap." And it was the voice of his father, and that was me. So you never really saw me, but you saw a shadow of me and a hat. And the woman who cast that series also cast Saw 1. And she remembered me from that. And there were these tape recordings in Saw. And I found myself sitting in a room with James Wan and talking about the script, and he asked me to read a couple of the tapes. And so I did.
Wow. We all have chills right at this moment. We have a question over here. What's your name? What's your question?
James, and if, for both of you guys, one thing from John Kramer's kind of philosophy on life, and something that impacted both of you, like what would that be that you kind of took away from, like, in your real life from this John Kramer's kind of philosophy on things?
The hardest one for all of us. It's so easy to get wrapped up in the negatives. The negatives have a life of their own. They don't need you to help them. They are demons who will penetrate your consciousness whenever they can, and they'll come in this way, and if they can't get in that way, they'll come in this way, or they'll try another way, or they'll trick you. The positives, however, do need your help. And to appreciate life and to be grateful for the fact that we're all able to be sitting here in this room as compared to the people in Syria is a miracle. And but to develop the muscle of gratitude requires mindfulness and work. The work never stops. That work never stops and never will stop. Whereas all of the negatives, all of the scary things, all of the worries, all of the concerns, all of the, oh, I haven't accomplished enough today, all that stuff, that'll just keep, that has a life of its own, doesn't need your help. So that aspect, what the hell did you ask me?
It was actually James over there, but you answered it correctly. That aspect of working with the positives and
That's the one. It's being grateful. It's that simple. I know I have to work on it all the time, and it ain't gonna stop till I'm 6 feet under.
Hostess, what about you?
Try working with him. It keeps you on your toes, right? Yeah, he's got a hell of a brain. The simplest form, I really top that, but I think for me it's respect others, whether it's their body, their mind, their heart. And if you don't, one day you might be severely disrespected somewhere else. So I'll keep it that simple.
The parts of the film, to pick up on what he's saying, the most interesting parts of Saw for me had to do with karma.
Amen. Amen. You know what? Tobin, if I may ask, because one of the organizers here I did an interview with, and he brought up the fact that the poster he purchased, the original Saw poster, the one sheet, didn't have your name on it. Now, it's true that no one knew that you were coming in to play this character. I mean, we see in the story how you're on the ground the entire time, no one realizes it, which is one of the greatest twists in modern film. But no promotion whatsoever that you were involved. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's about the quality of the work. I signed on to do Saw because of 3 things. One, I had never worked with Danny Glover, and I wanted to work with him. And second, I had a car payment. And the third was the moment.
Right.
The moment that you're talking about. When I got to that moment, I was, first of all, I was fascinated by anybody who wrote a movie about 3 guys locked in a room. I hadn't seen that, we did get out of the room a couple of times, but it was essentially, that was the thing, and it struck me as being more of a play than anything else. And kind of waiting for Godot kind of thing, And then when I got to that moment at the end, I was like, wow, I didn't anticipate that moment when I read the script, so I thought if the viewer doesn't anticipate that moment, that's going to be a good moment. And so it was worth doing just for that.
Questions? All right, let's see go ahead. What's your name?
Nikki.
Question?
For Mr. Bell, I have 2 parts. Mr. Bell, I'd like to know when you did the first movie, if you had any idea what you were starting, what it would become. And for both of you, did your work affect your dreams at night?
Tobin, go ahead.
Did my work affect my dreams at night? Probably, but I'm not consciously aware of. I tend not to bring that crap home with me. And John is a very technical guy, and I approach what I do related to him in a very technical way. He's a scientist and a philosopher, and he's interested in religion and music, and he reads a lot. He's very technical in a certain way. So, what was the first part of your question? No. I had forgotten about Saw completely. After we did it, I made the car payment, and I went on. I was in the Czech Republic doing a series for NBC, and Saw had opened and made its $60 million, whatever it made, and I had completely forgotten about it when I got a call in Prague that they were going to do a 2 and that they were going to send me a script, but I hadn't even given it another thought.
Kostas, what about you?
Well, no, I don't take that stuff home. I think the stuff you take home is getting ready for the next day. But I tend to be humorous during work when appropriate, to get through the day with the energy. And when people were in traps for hours on end, and I'd walk in on them and go, I'd tickle their nose or make fun of them. You want to break the irony. I mean, just break the work day up anyway, whatever you do. But there was a lot of humor. And when I first met Tobin, he was very serious about it. He's a serious man. And then one day when he was on that bed, when he was having that scalp operation, something happened and he burst out laughing, and we were laughing. That was one of the greatest days. Remember that? The director thought we were flirting with each other because he couldn't quite tell what was going on. No, I don't take it home, man. You gotta go home, walk your dog, and kiss your wife and have a laugh, hopefully. I've had bad dreams, but not because of Saw. But there was that one phone call from Tobin Bell at 11 o'clock at night.
We have questions. All right, go ahead.
Oh, okay, I expect that. Hey. What? It's Joey. This is for Mr. Bell. Can you kind of articulate? Obviously, I don't think a lot of people were familiar with your work until you became Jigsaw, until you became Kramer. Can you kind of articulate what it was like from going from a working actor with a car payment, trying to figure out where that money was going to come from, to a cultural icon? Because you can't deny how important Saw is, and Jigsaw in general. So what was that like for you, to become an icon of a genre and pop culture in general, really?
Great. This icon business, I frankly wasn't. I approach everything that I do pretty much in the same way, and this thing about an icon comes from fans and press and that sort of marketing thing. I don't really think about that. I don't view John Kramer the first Comic-Con I went to was the first time I was aware that how devoted horror fans are and how important the genre is to horror fans. So I think that's where the icon thing comes from, because they love Jigsaw and they love the Saw movies and John Kramer. It couldn't be better. I mean, when you become an actor, you hope that the buyers can see you as anything, whether it's a bad guy, a good guy, a love interest, the astronaut, a priest, a cowboy, whatever they can see you as, you hope somebody can see you as something. And if, because of whatever fate, I mean, I certainly never expected that I would be playing this guy in these Saw movies. And so I recommend to you that you never know where something's going to lead. So if you can say yes to anything, say yes.
We have a question back here.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Name?
Hi, my name's Vanessa. I'm actually standing up for my wife, Victoria. She's still starstruck from meeting you and she can't speak. She was just wondering what your favorite traps were, each of you, in the movies, and why.
Favorite traps and why?
I like the ones that are most related to people's karma. The ones like, for example, the needle pit that Shawnee falls into, or you may know her as Amanda in Saw 2 in the house. Because I think they reinforce the message about how you reap what you sow.
I agree with Tobin's philosophy, and I can't top it, but in a selfish way, I'd like to say that the coffin that I went into and got out of was one of my favorites because I got out of it. And the one where his lovely wife, Jill, put me into that trap and I got out of it, I love that one too because I got out of it. I'll leave it at that.
If I may ask something, Costas, you and Peter Strom, the character Peter Strom, you two are each other through 2 movies. He's probably the closest one that gets, he probably is the one who gets closest to you. And you talk about the coffin scene and how he meets his end. Having a character who's your arch nemesis that much in a film like Saw where it's got so many moving pieces, what was that like?
Through that particular scene?
Just through those 2 films, having that character.
Well, you know, in every movie there's somebody that's, you know, that's annoying somebody, there's somebody that you have what's his name, controversy with, and he was the guy, he was pushy, he was hungry, he was, you know, a rough cop. I was different, and in the end, my so-called daddy taught me well, because he got it. I did a rope-a-dope.
Yes, you did.
And he got the worst of it, but he did his job because he had a lot of energy. And you know, this movie is interesting because you like some people, you don't like them, you're not sure if you like them, and you never know where it's going to go. And the audience reaction is all important.
I also love the one that Strom is in the, his head is underwater.
Right.
You know, he's in a box of water, and in order to survive, he does a tracheotomy. Yeah, that one was really cool. I also liked the naked refrigerator woman, because the woman in Saw 2 who was in a refrigerator naked, and if she didn't perform properly with the guy who was coming through, then the whole sprayers would go on, and the ice would build up on her body. I liked it because of the special effects that created that buildup of the ice on her was amazing, done by a guy, a Canadian guy named Francois Deganat. Marvelously talented guy.
We have a question back here. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Courtney, and I was wondering, what is it like working with James Wan?
What's it like working with James Wan?
James, as you know, he's gone on to become a huge Hollywood director with The Fast and the Furious and a lot of other marvelous stuff. He directed Saw 1, came here with Lee Wanell with a 10-minute short, and sold it, ended up directing the film, and Lee, his partner, played Adam in Saw 1. Working with James, James is you'd never think, they're Australian, and you'd never think that Saul would be coming out of a mild-mannered, gentle guy like James Wan. He's a very sweet man, and I wish I could tell you more about his directorial skills, but I can't, because I knew what I had to do in Saw 1. That was lie on the floor in a pool of blood. And there wasn't a lot James could say to me about that. However, he did help me hugely in that moment that we're talking about at the end of the film. And it was very simple direction that he gave me. You want to know what it was?
Yes.
Yeah.
We had to do this in one take because the budget was extremely limited with Saw 1, and the producers were terrified that we weren't going to get me getting up in one take. And if we didn't get it in one take, then the entire prosthetic in my head, on my head, would have had to be rebuilt, which would have taken another couple, because I have to pull that off in that shot. They would have had to rebuild that. That would have taken a couple of hours. Money, 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 money. So we had to get it in one take. We rehearsed a couple of times, and then James came over to me and he said, don't forget how you feel in your body after you've been lying someplace for a long time, like he has been. And I was like, oh yeah, thanks, James. Because I was getting up slowly, but what he said to me gave me this much more, just a tad more of that achy difficulty that where your body freezes up, where you've been in one position for a long time. So he was very clear, very specific, not too cerebral, just added a little something, and it helped hugely. And whenever I watch that shot, which is not that often, I notice it. I notice what he told me.
If I may ask, I want to elaborate a little bit more on the aspect of the traps and the prosthetics, because as the budget went up, Tobin, the traps became more expensive, more not complicated, but really the question is, to both of you, being around those traps, the craftsmanship, the people who built the props, everything, the set designers, can you talk about being on set for that? And I have to think you have to be in awe of what these people were creating and bringing visually in front of you. Whoever would like to take it first.
Well, Tobin mentioned Francois and his team. Guys, I don't know if you've ever been a part of any kind of team, but they're the kind of guys that just make you want to cry. They do everything for you. They do it so well, and the result's unbelievable. What they were doing, I got to throw this in for a bit of humor, but what they did was like world-class Academy Award type stuff. You know what I mean? And you guys have seen it, well, and I think you would agree. But I just want to tell you one quick little thing about Tobin Bell. In Saw 4, when we took the computer out of his body, we took the tape out of his body, remember that one? I walked onto the set, and it was very late in the day, and I was kind of the new kid in town. And walk in there, and he's on the slab. There's a naked Tobin Bell on a slab. He's completely naked, okay? Pubes and everything. And I'm walking up, and I'm like, geez, this guy's so dedicated, man. Can somebody give him a towel? And everybody's laughing at me. I'm like, what? It was the dummy that they made. It was, it was Tobin Bell, man. That's how good they were. I thought it was him.
Tobin, what about you? You've been around most of the traps. John Kramer, brilliant engineer, architect of these games. What was it like to be a part of that, to see those in front of you?
I don't give a lot of thought to the traps.
Okay.
I just don't. John's a mechanical engineer. By the time I get involved on any particular script or project, they don't need, as Costas pointed out, there are these professional guys who really know the traps, who really know how to build them, before I ever even get involved, they've been talking about those traps for 6 months. The producers have been, no, we don't want that. We want this. They're batting it back and forth. They don't hire actors. Movies are made up of so many parts. What the actors are hired for is to bring humanity to the characters. They don't even need you to go the direction that your character goes in the script, because the script is going to carry your character inexorably toward that end. So they don't need you to play that direction. They need you to play something that brings some sense of depth to what that character's going through. That's what actors do. Actors don't build the traps or deal with the timing of certain things. What we deal with is heart. That's all.
Questions? What's your name? What's your question?
My name is Jessie, and I'm wondering, of all the people Jigsaw brought to justice, who do you think deserved it the most?
Go ahead, a little bit louder.
Sorry, of all the people Jigsaw brought to justice, who do you both think deserved it the most?
Who deserved to be brought to justice the most through the films? Hey, Costas.
Well, I mean, if I'm gonna be,
Thank you, Costas.
First of all, when we see what happens, am I still alive? Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
You know what happened to her that night, right? Remember the guy broke in and, well, you know, any man would take revenge. So that particular person who's a very sweet and good actor, that character got what he deserved. And the guy that apparently killed my sister with that pendulum, you know, I guess, you know, what happened here, but he got what he deserved. But in general, there was reasons for everybody in traps, right? And everybody had their own favorite. Sometimes some things are personal, and you just, what's happening? You're going to take over.
I was gonna say. It's coming.
Finish, Costas?
So, yeah, I was losing track because of the voice, but take over.
Donnie Wahlberg's character in Saw 2. What a prick. You know, what he did to Amanda, what he did to Amanda, we don't even know what he did to Amanda. You know, it's been hinted at. You know, she's a junkie, you know, who knows what else he did to manipulate her and to... So as far as I'm concerned, Detective, whatever his fucking name, what was his name? Yeah, prick. That's Detective. Donnie Elwood I adored Donnie. I loved working with Donnie Wahlberg. Donnie is an actor with a very strong sense of truth. And he will not say anything that he thinks is bullshit. So working through lines with him in Saw 2 was heaven. He was very, very forceful in that way, and I adored him, working with him. But his character, he got what he deserved.
Do you remember how his character died? Did you remember the ice blocks that smashed his head? I'd like to take part, you know, some kind of something for that, because I was right next to him and it was planned. But I think he built the stuff.
Questions? What we got here? Let's question. Hey, it's on hand over here. You, sir. Coming around. All right. Name and question.
My name is Josh. Between both your gentlemen's personal views on your characters' motives and how you personally stepped into the role, do you guys kind of see yourselves as the hero or the villain? Because I guess you could kind of approach the motive in two different senses. It's just how they approach it, which is kind of, you know, the villainous sense.
Well, the old adage for actors is you've got to justify what you do. You know, everybody thinks they're a good guy, even if they're the worst. And if we have one of the greatest killers in cinematic history next to me, everybody loves him. So, you know, that's part of my answer. You all love Jigsaw, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my answer makes sense.
Heroes and villains. Heroes and villains. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in angels and devils, you know. I believe in the gray area in between. You know, there's too many people that try to string us out on the horns of things, you know, Republicans and Democrats, and you're either in a state of grace or you're in a state of mortal sin. I don't believe in that. I believe believe that we're all way too complex to be one or the other. And if you want to be interesting, then don't be one or the other. On the screen, I would refer you to a film called The Executioner's Song, or Executioner's Song, played, Tommy Lee Jones plays Gary Gilmore, who ultimately was executed in Utah for a series of murders. Tommy Lee Jones draws you into that character in a way where you really understand why he did what he did. Doesn't mean that you would do the same thing. Doesn't mean that you can justify what he did. But if for a moment you can identify with some driving force, then that driving force will not exist on one of the extremes. It'll exist somewhere in the middle, which is what most of our lives consist of.
For all you teenagers out there, don't get any bright ideas.
Hey, we're coming up on it, and I wanted to ask you, because Tobin, you brought up about the aspect of healthcare. Part 6, for me, I think is the most relevant of the series. You know what, Tobin, to both of you, what episode really resonated with you? What's the one that you felt connected the most out of the franchise? Which episode really connected for you in the franchise? Was it 6 with the healthcare? Was it the aspect of 5 because it kind of brought everything together? What was the episode of Saw that really connected for you? Found that area that really you sit back and you say, this is the story that I felt John Kramer, my character, really was.
I liked 2 and 3. Okay. And part of the reason why I liked them, I liked 2 because he got up off the floor. And you began to understand a little bit what was going on for him, and what his, because I got to dance with Donnie Wahlberg's character in that, and express some of what I was feeling that I wasn't able to express in 1. I liked 3, probably for reasons that never were on the screen. Well, they were on the screen, but I liked 3 because I was able to create something with Amanda that was done with just a touch, just a look, just a moment, but red. And to create connection in the chill of a Saw film is what I'm talking about. There can be all kinds of layers, some intellectual, some philosophical, some textual, just in the way that I would look at her, or she would look at me. Warmed what could have been a frigid experience for me, lying on a friggin' gurney for an entire film.
What about you?
Well, I must say the scene with Tobin in 5 made a lot of things sort of click for me. For the overall behavior of, John, and really that was it. You kind of understood certain things on a personal level. So that's where, and I wasn't in 1 and 2, so I didn't care apart until he brought it up, because I love him. And he got to get up off the ground.
We'll take one more question. We'll do right at the front. Go ahead. Name and question.
Hello, my name is Brandon. I was wondering what your guys' all-time favorite movies.
High Noon, Gary Cooper, Grace Kelly.
Jeez. Can't beat that one. Well, look, there's a movie called The Searchers with John Wayne.
Yeah.
It's a pretty thunderous movie. There's many others, I think. Dan, what about yours?
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, good. I understand you now.
let's finish with this. Give a story off the set between you two, because you talked, Costas, about the aspect of going by, why people were in the traps and tickling their nose and stuff like that, bringing levity, bringing a release. Can you each of you give a story from the set that brought that release for a very tense film?
On the set?
Off the set, of course.
Yeah, so hey.
I have no doubt.
I have one in the scene that Costas was talking about. Was it 4 or 5 between you and me? In Saw 5, there's an 8-minute scene. Most scenes are never 8 minutes in films, but there's an 8-minute scene between Costas and I. And I particularly like the way that scene evolved because, like with a lot of other Saw films, a lot of the writing was adjusted, tweaked, changed at the last minute, and they hadn't, up until the day before we shot the film, the room hadn't even been created. And so I had the day off that day, and I went in the room and I worked with the set designers to say, look, what if he went over here and he picked up a knife over here and talked about tempered steel, and I said, get me a mirror. And so they got this stand-up mirror because I wanted to turn the mirror around so Costas could see himself in the mirror for a moment. So the evolution of that scene and in the writing, and as I recall, there's a "fuck you" in that scene that came quite at the last minute, which I was glad to have happen. And so there was just the way we worked on the Saw films was always often last minute and turned out to be rewarding and felt like a dance, like choreography, and was very rich in that way. And so I appreciated that kind of evolution. It's always great when you're working on something that is taking shape as you do it, and where the people goes, no, let's not do that. What if we took that and did this and this and did that? Now that's a good idea, and we would try that, and sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. People thinking on their feet like that.
Every now and then when you do a movie or some scenes with great people, you hope for a little magic and it comes out on the screen. We found a little magic, I call them happy accidents and things like that.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to tell you about was Tobin loved to walk. Right? And he's been in Toronto more than me, and he's like, hey kid, let's go for a walk. So every now and then he'd take me for a walk, and I just want to tell you, the fucking dude can walk, man. He can walk for miles and talk, and I'm huffing and puffing, catching up with him, trying to hear what he's saying, and he's walking through traffic, I'm trying not to get run over, it's snowing. The man can walk. I just want you to know that. And he's like a ninja, he disappears. You'll see him there, watch today, you look, where is he? Boom, he's gone. Anyway, he's a great walker.
By the way, Elia Kazan, great director who, Academy Award-winning director who directed On the Waterfront. Even better than High Noon, in a different way. Academy Award-winning On the Waterfront, directed by Elia Kazan. Kazan used to walk all the time. He wouldn't audition actors. He would walk with them. He would say, hey, how you doing? Come on, let's go for a walk. And he'd talk to them while he walked with them, and he'd talk about their parents and their home and where they lived and where they came from, where they hoped to go. And by the end of the walk, he'd know whether he wanted to cast them or not.
Ladies and gentlemen, Costas, do you have anything left to say?
No, walking's good for you, especially if you're walking with the boss.
Ladies and gentlemen, Costas Mandalore, Tobin Bell. Thank you very much, gentlemen.